The twin suns of the frontier world rose over the crystalline towers of the Lunarian capital as Princess Lyra stepped onto the terrace that overlooked the vast cityscape. She felt the cool shimmer of morning winds brushing across her skin as her thoughts drifted far from the palace walls. It had been months since the last battle of the long interstellar war had ended, and the weight of its memory still lingered in every corridor of her life. As she gazed at the fleets drifting in the distant sky, she could only think of the soldier whom all worlds now called the Conqueror. His name was Aaron, a simple name spoken in awe across the galaxy. She did not know him personally, but she admired his victory, as did every being who understood how close their civilizations had come to collapse. Yet beneath her admiration lay a strange feeling that she could not fully name. Lyra decided she needed a quiet moment in the Hall of Echoes, a place where stories of past heroes were etched into living crystal. Before she left her chamber, however, her advisor Rowan intercepted her with a bow and a calm expression. He informed her that the victors would soon arrive for the peace ceremony and that she must prepare to greet General Aaron himself. Her heart thudded once in mild surprise, though she kept her composure. She replied that she would be ready and then continued on her way. What Rowan did not know was that Lyra had carried a strange sensation about the Conqueror since the war had begun. Something about his reports, his mission logs, and the quiet manner in which he spoke reminded her of someone she had once known, years ago, long before she became the princess responsible for uniting divided worlds. She had wandered through the palace gardens with a human boy named Aaron. He had been part of an exchange program between the two species, a curious and cheerful child who explored every corner of the Lunarian world with wide eyes and a fearless laugh. They played near the flower pools, and he often told stories of his homeworld, where forests were tall and winds carried the scent of warm soil. Their friendship had been brief, lasting only one season before his family returned to their distant colony. She remembered his kindness and how he always stood up for others, even if he was small compared to the Lunarian children. She remembered the day he promised he would return when he grew strong enough to protect others. Then life moved on, and she never saw him again. When the war erupted, Lyra sometimes wondered where that human boy had gone, and whether he survived the turmoil that swept across the stars. She never connected him to the famed soldier leading the resistance across multiple systems. The idea seemed impossible, for how could a childhood friend become the galaxy's greatest warrior? Yet the name felt too familiar. Still, she dismissed the notion, because countless individuals shared simple names across many colonies. Even so, her thoughts persisted, circling the past as if tugging her toward a truth long hidden. The palace soon filled with movement as the victorious delegation approached. The guards lined the pathways. Officials rushed with final arrangements, and every decorated terrace shimmered with banners of unity. As Lyra took her place in the grand hall, she felt the weight of her role heavy on her shoulders. A pair of towering gates slid open, and the human fleet officers stepped inside with proud yet solemn expressions. Their leader walked at the front, a tall figure in worn armor marked by scars of countless battles. The hall fell silent as he approached. Then General Aaron removed his helmet. Lyra's breath caught as she saw his face. He was older, stronger, and carried the presence of someone who had faced horrors and refused to yield. But his eyes still held the same quiet gentleness, she remembered. As he looked at her, she felt time collapse between past and present. He bowed with grace that surprised even his own soldiers. When he lifted his head, there was a small, softened expression that only she understood. In that instant, she knew the truth. Her childhood friend had grown into the hero who ended the war. Her mind buzzed with memories of the young boy who spoke of peace while defending even the smallest creatures in the gardens. Aaron had returned, not as the boy she knew, but as the man who had changed the fate of countless worlds. The ceremony proceeded with speeches of unity and honor. Lyra spoke about the future, where species would no longer fear one another, and where cooperation would replace conflict. Throughout her address, she felt Aaron's steady gaze on her, not intrusive, but filled with recognition. When he finally stepped forward to deliver his own words, his voice carried the strength of a leader and the humility of a man who remembered where he came from. He spoke of bravery not as the act of fighting, but as the choice to protect others even when fear loomed large. He acknowledged the sacrifices made by both sides and insisted that no world should forget the cost of war. His speech earned respectful silence from all, and his sincerity left many deeply moved. When the public ceremony ended, Lyra requested a private meeting with the celebrated soldier. Her guards escorted her to a quiet chamber lined with starlit glass walls. Aaron entered moments later and paused as though unsure of how to begin. Lyra approached him with a calm expression, though her heart raced in anticipation. She asked if he remembered a season in the palace gardens long ago. His eyes softened again. He replied that he remembered everything. He remembered the flowers that glowed in the evening, the pools that reflected the twin suns, and the girl who taught him how to listen to the songs of Lunarian trees. Lyra felt warmth spread across her chest as he spoke. The familiarity between them resurfaced naturally, like a bond that had only been resting. She asked him why he never said anything sooner. Aaron answered that the war demanded he focus on survival and the responsibilities entrusted to him. He wished to return to her world in peace, not amid chaos. He also feared she might not remember him after so many years. Lyra assured him that she had never truly forgotten. Their childhood memories returned vividly as they spoke. They recalled their mischief in the gardens, their shared fascination with the world's glowing wildlife, and the time Aaron stood between her and a defiant young creature to shield her from harm. That simple act had stayed with her, shaping much of her belief in the courage found beyond her own species. Aaron explained how the exchange program had inspired his dream of unity among worlds. When conflict erupted, he refused to let the galaxy fall to despair. He trained relentlessly, volunteered for every mission that mattered, and rose through the ranks not because of ambition, but because of necessity. He wanted to protect innocent people across every world he had ever cared about, including hers. Lyra listened to every word, moved by the realization that the boy she once knew had carried a noble purpose in his heart for all those years. Days passed, and the peace negotiations continued in earnest. Lyra and Aaron worked side by side during diplomatic sessions, where their combined presence eased tensions between long-divided delegates. Aaron's insight into human strategies and Lunarian customs made him a bridge between the two species. Lyra saw how leaders admired his wisdom, and she appreciated how he valued her guidance with equal respect. Their cooperation soon became the foundation upon which the fragile truce strengthened. Outside the meetings, they often walked through the palace gardens together, retracing the paths they once explored as children. The gardens had changed in some places, grown in others, but they still carried the echoes of their shared past. Aaron admired how Lyra had matured into a leader whose empathy matched her intelligence. Lyra admired how Aaron had become a warrior whose strength never eclipsed his compassion. Their conversations flowed effortlessly. They discussed their childhood dreams, their battles, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Lyra found comfort in his presence, and Aaron felt grounded whenever she smiled. One evening, as they approached the luminescent bridge overlooking the lower gardens, Lyra asked Aaron what kept him standing during the darkest moments of war. He paused before answering. He told her that the memory of their friendship had stayed with him like a guiding star. When he was younger, his homeworld suffered hardship, and he often wondered if peace was nothing more than a distant dream. Yet he remembered how Lyra treated him with kindness, even though he was a stranger in her world. That simple kindness reminded him that peace was worth fighting for. Lyra felt emotion welling in her chest as she listened. She thanked him for his honesty, and he expressed gratitude that she had given him a memory strong enough to carry him through war. The next morning brought the final session of the peace, Accords. It was the most important one, as it would determine how both civilizations would rebuild in the years ahead. Delegates from both sides gathered in the Grand Hall once again. Some were tired, some were hopeful, and some were cautious, but all understood the significance of the moment. Lyra opened the session by outlining the terms that honored both sacrifice and recovery. Aaron followed with a detailed plan to secure trade routes and protect shared territories. Together, they shaped an agreement that balanced fairness with practicality. By dusk, the accords were signed. The hall erupted in quiet applause as leaders shook hands. The war was officially over, and the future had been rewritten by unity instead of force. As the delegates departed, Lyra and Aaron stood side by side once more. She thanked him for everything he had done, not only for her world, but for all the world.